Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade, and yes, Virgil was here, metaphorically speaking, of course, but his vision, his impact, and his legacy will live on in the show, the sneakers we wear, and the culture we cultivate and nurture. As many of you know, Virgil Abloh, founder of Off-White, artistic director at Louis Vuitton, and mind behind some of the most interesting Nike releases of the past several years, passed away over Thanksgiving weekend at the too young age of 41. It was revealed that Abloh was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer in the heart in 2019, proving that once again, cancer. Our condolences go out to Abloh's family and friends, some of whom we've heard about through the years as they deal with this on a deeply personal level. Abloh rose to prominence in the late 2000s after graduating with a master's in architecture from the Illinois Institute of Technology in 2006. It was at IIT where he discovered a passion for the fashion world, citing a building under construction that was designed by architect Rem Koolhaas, who had also worked for Prada. By 2009, he was interning at Fendi alongside friend Kanye West, assuming the role of creative director of West's agency Donda in 2010, and in 2011, taking on the artistic direction for Watch the Throne. Some of you might remember this era thanks to this picture. Yeah, it's a once-in-a-lifetime shot. According to a W Magazine interview, Virgil said that they were, quote, a generation that was interested in fashion and wasn't supposed to be there, end quote, and that they saw this as their chance to participate and make current culture. In a lot of ways, it felt like they were bringing more excitement than the industry was. And as the past decade proved, well, he was absolutely right. In 2012, Abloh would launch his first brand called Pyrex Vision, which in hindsight would set the stage for his work with Jordan Brand. The legend goes that he bought dead stock Ralph Lauren clothing, probably the type you saw at the Ontario Mills or Cabazon outlet malls, not that co-writer, the real one, was keeping track of what his relatives who were visiting here from the Philippines were buying or anything like that. Anyways, Virgil would buy these flannel shirts, slap on the number 23 and Pyrex on the back, and sell them for $550 a pop. The Pyrex vision was not long for this world, as Abloh would shut it down, saying that it was meant to be an artistic experiment and not a full-blown business. That would come a year later with Off-White. And side note, Abloh would also help launch and sell Ben Trill at that time alongside Matthew Williams and Heron Preston. Remember Ben Trill? Man, what a time. Off-White is described by Abloh as the gray area between black and white as the color off-white. The brand would earn him plaudits from the high fashion world, scooping up awards and partnering with companies that would change the game forever, namely IKEA and Nike. By 2018, Off-White was considered the hottest label in the world, and in that same year, he would become the artistic director for Louis Vuitton's men line. A number of Virgil design trainers would drop since he took on the role, but the crown jewel, at least in the mind of sneakerheads, was going to be the unprecedented collaboration with Nike on the Air Force One, scheduled to drop in 2022. Using LV-inspired patterns and luxury materials, it was the bootleg kicks of the 2000s finally getting their seal of legitimacy, along with a hint of off-white flair. As of this recording, Nike has postponed the release of the off-white Nike Blazer Low next week. So let's just talk about the one, or more specifically, the 10. The 2017 Off-White Nike The 10 collection was not just a monumental streetwear and sneaker moment, it was a monumental fashion moment. Never before had Nike given the keys to someone like Virgil. And yes, you can interpret someone like Virgil however you want to. Not only that, they trusted him to deconstruct some of their most iconic silhouettes like the Air Jordan 1, Air Force One, and others. At first glance, they appear to be nothing more than slight alterations of the original design. That criticism, fair or not, would follow Virgil for his entire career. Regardless, the 10 was a massive success and further solidified Virgil's power and influence, even if the resale prices for most of the things that he made were out of the reach for the ordinary consumer. It's hard to understate what Abloh meant to, well, everything. Even if you had never heard about him or only knew him through a once ironic, now iconic photo back in the mid-2000s, you know somebody who was either influenced by him, wore something he designed, or knocked off something he created. The rate at which his work was being pumped out was rapid, as if he was chasing something or trying to keep pace with a timeline that we did not know about. Turns out, it was both of those things. We talked about Virgil and his work quite a bit here on Hard Pass. Some of it was glowing praise, some of it was playful teasing, and some of it was scathing critiques. Nobody ever bats 1,000, and there were definitely things that Virgil said that we didn't always agree with, and there were things that he created that our feet wanted no part of. That being said, It's not the time for that. His ledger is a lot different than other people who were taken away from us too soon, and the moment for litigating his words and appraising his work in totality will come at another time. I will ask though, as is the case with any creative person, Virgil likely left copious amounts of notes, sketches, and ideas that could last multiple lifetimes. Assuming the estate gives their approval, do you think it would be right for Nike or Louis Vuitton to continue Virgil's work? Unlike other creatives who left unfinished work, like a writer who didn't finish a book, or a songwriter who never puts a melody to the lyrics, or an actor who hasn't been able to complete their role in a movie, Virgil's work at times felt unfinished and unrefined. And that was the point. He wanted to make stuff for a younger generation of himself, and his philosophy was that a work could be considered new as long as they applied as little as 3% change to the original. Are there such examples of that with other classic Nikes in the archives? What was the next Jordan retro for him to deconstruct and build up from scratch in an effort to make us feel what he felt when Michael Jordan was rising to stardom? The memory of Virgil that will always stick with me is a clip of him walking down the runway of his debut Louis Vuitton show back in June of 2018. It's a clip you've all probably seen 1,000 times this week, but it's one that will resonate with me forever. Through the sea of applause, he finds and points to his friend Kanye, and they embrace. And it's not one of those ironic, love you man, bro hugs played up for the crowd. There were goosebumps, tears, and clutching of hats to make sure that the moment was for them and exclusively for them. It's two kids from Chicago who got out their dreams and checked off every conceivable box. It didn't matter that prior to this moment, there were apparently signs of tension between the two over Virgil's decision to become LV's artistic director. Through comments made in various interviews, Kanye appeared to want to claim credit for Virgil's success without actually outright saying it. Whatever that was about, it all went away in that moment. In reports that have come out since Virgil's passing, Kanye was part of that inner circle that knew about the diagnosis. Knowing that these two made peace should be a lesson to everybody. Obviously, there's stuff that is hard or even impossible to get over, but when it's trivial stuff, you gotta let it go before it's too late. You never know, you just don't. Rest in paradise, Virgil. Let's get out some hot takes. There is a change.org petition right now that is asking the media to stop interviewing Will and Jada Pinkett Smith because they have overshared everything about their relationship for the past several months. I just want to point out that these petitions never actually work because the Kardashians and the Jenners are still around. But do whatever makes you feel better, I guess. It'd be great if they both just stopped talking about their various entanglements. However, I want to hear more stories from Will about passing up on stuff like The Matrix to do Wild Wild West. Like, I just want to know what song Will would have made about The Matrix, you know? And the flip side of Keanu doing Wild Wild West is also funny to think about. Like, do we still get that Wild Wild West song with Cisco, but now with Keanu's band Dogstar? I don't know. Beyonce's new Ivy Park collection with Adidas is almost here, and part of that ad campaign includes a video that features none other than the late Kobe Bryant's daughter Natalia as one of the models for the collection. This has obviously led to speculation that Adidas is making a serious pitch to bring Kobe back to the three stripes since he started his sneaker career there before moving to Nike in 2003. This has some Nike fans nervous, to which I would say, great, let Adidas and Nike compete for who will treat Mamba's legacy better. My hope would be that the Bryant estate figures out a non-exclusive deal so Adidas and Nike can release every Kobe shoe so we can buy Pro versions of the entire lineage from the top 10 2000s to the KB8 to the Huarache 2K4s to the Kobe ADs. Congrats to New York City mayoral candidate Trae Young. He got one write-in vote during the last election, joining other athletes like Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees, Julius Randle, and Bing Bong of the New York Knicks. Every election has gag votes like this, but I almost guarantee you that Trae got one more vote than Knicks owner James Dolan. That should be the real battle for New York. The owner the fans despise or the star they love to despise, but probably wish he was on their team. During an episode of Sneaker Shopping, Shaquille O'Neal clarified something we've all heard about in passing, but never really gave it that much thought, that Nike owned the Shaq brand for a time during the 2000s.
But what you have to understand about the Shaq line is Nike owned us at one point. The guy who I had a joint venture with, Nike had owned it, then Nike didn't want us, so I brought it back and then sold it to somebody else.
It was part of Nike's play into the budget sneaker market that also included the purchase of Starter, which included the Shaq brand. On top of that, Nike created a new group called Exeter Brand to actually handle Starter, Shaq, and other budget brands. So yeah, technically Nike owned the Shaq brand, and that's why we saw so many Shaq shoes that resembled Jordan retros. The partnership wouldn't last long, and Shaq would eventually go on his own, and now he's in a position to own Reebok as part of an investment group that's been scooping up major brands like Forever 21, Barney's, and now Reebok. Well, at least I know why I'm going to see a giant standee the next time I pass a Forever 21, or why he's at Barney's New York selling me luxury fanny packs. Giannis Antetokounmpo has revealed his backup plan in case this whole basketball thing doesn't work out for him. Trading cards. Not Top Shots, actual cards.
He's going to sign this, it's going to be worth a lot, and that's it. Yeah, if I ever go broke, I'm going to sell them. Now your parents always told you to have a backup plan. Here's my backup plan.
Yo, that's a Bobby Portis Blue Prism, which I checked is around 30 to 50 bucks. Not bad, actually. And it'll be worth even more if he can get them graded PSA 10. I know it's a gag, but if you know Giannis's life story, he's the type of dude to not take success for granted. Last year, he posted a TikTok showing off a collection of his own cards. According to co-writer, it looks like some of those cards are one of ones, and it's entirely possible there's a poor collector who pulled a redemption for that one of one, and Giannis just kept it. Yikes. But I just hope he starts collecting cards of other stars like LeBron and Steph and Russ, and encourages rookies on the other teams to get more shots so their cards go up in value. Like, could you imagine if he wasn't actually asking Melo Ball for his jersey after that amazing game, but he was wondering if he could sign some of his rookie cards? Insider trading has never been funnier. And before we move to the next segment, I just want to give a word of advice to everybody out here in the comment section. After a big game against Michigan, it looks like North Carolina's men's basketball team got their shipment of cool gray 11s in. This led to a bunch of heroes in the comments saying that they got theirs first, most likely because of the early access of the sneakers app, or they had a connect. Whatever. I'm just going to remind everybody of the famous Michael Jordan and Gary Payton story when a young GP tried to trash talk MJ about all the cars he was buying, and MJ replied that that's cool, but he's got the same cars and he got them for free. Yeah. It's the Heat Check, where we bring you everything that's dropping this week. We have the Ivy Park Adidas Ultra Boost on the 10th for $200, Adidas Yeezy Foam Runner MX Sand Gray on the 11th for $80, Adidas Yeezy Foam Runner MXT Moon Gray on the 11th for $80, the Yeezy Foam Runner Aqua on the 11th for $80. We also have the Air Jordan 1 Low Bread Toe on the 8th for $100. If you were one of the many who took an L on the Air Jordan 1 High Bread Toe from a few years back, this is your chance at redemption. Sure, the hype is less, and this isn't the proper Air Jordan 1 Low if you really want to dig into the weeds of what counts as a, quote, true Air Jordan 1 Low or whatever, but take it from co-writer who owns a pair of the Royal Toe 1 Lows, it doesn't actually matter. Women's Nike Dunk Low Daybreak and Air Max 97 Golden Gals on the 9th. Now, if you think us featuring this trio of sneakers is just an excuse for us to power rank the Golden Girls, well, you would be right. Okay, number 1, Dorothy. 2, Rose. 3, Sophia. 4, Roland, aka Don Cheadle from that short-lived Golden Girls spinoff that didn't have Dorothy. And number 5, Blanche. Nike Kyrie 8 or Infinity keep Sue fresh on the 10th for $130. The rollout of Kyrie's 8th or Infinite signature shoe has been virtually non-existent. Other than a few listings on Nike.com for the in-kid sizes, we haven't seen or heard much, which makes the supposed December 10th release of the Keep Sue Fresh colorway so interesting. I'll be surprised to see if it actually hits the street dates and if we see NBA players rocking this homage to WNBA legend, Sue Bird. Like, I know the W season ended recently, but if Nike is looking for somebody to hold the Kyrie fort down, it could be the tag team of Sue and a guy who deserves a Nike signature line, like ASAP, John Morant. We have the Sakai Cause Nike Blazer Low Purple Dusk on the 10th for $140. The double swoosh, double tongue, double everything gimmick shows no hints of slowing down. And the Cause cosign will keep this train going. Choo, choo, choo. The Adidas Yeezy 700 V3 Copper Fade on the 10th for $200. Copper is a blend of red and bronze colors. Since it's a natural tone, a copper hair dye is needed to achieve the look. Copper is one of the most popular red hair colors for the fall season. There are different shades of copper fade, including soft strawberry, deep ginger to copper pinning. And then our pick of the week is the Air Jordan 11 Cool Gray on the 11th for $225. And now for a heat check on the Air Jordan 11 Cool Gray. After teasing us with cool gray lows for the past several years, we're finally getting a proper retro for the first time since 2010. Originally released in 2001 and worn by Michael Jordan during his stint with the Washington Wizards, the cool gray 11s have been granted, quote, OG status without being an actual OG colorway that dropped between 95 and 96. It's not shocking to see these rank higher than the Columbias or the Space Jams on some publications' list, although I would have to disagree with it being ranked higher than Space Jams under really any circumstance. Anyway, the cool grays, to me, have always represented a unique time in the career of Michael Jordan, and it's one that was widely regarded as a failure as it was happening. We rarely saw the media and the fans ever turn on MJ in any way because he was such a giant and beloved figure. But man, there were so many people who thought Jordan was tarnishing his legacy by suiting up in the Wizards blue. Already running on fumes during the Last Dance season, and here he was a few years later trying to give it a go yet again for a different team and without Hall of Fame teammates like Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman by his side. I mean, Richard Hamilton was good, but he was too young, and when they traded him for Jerry Stackhouse a year later, Stack was not about to take a backseat to anybody, especially somebody who he clearly thought was past their prime. But it's not like MJ was bad during those 2 seasons. It wasn't on the level of his rookie season nearly 20 years prior, but Wizards Jordan was not to be taken lightly, and the same goes for his sneaker game. There were the new signature shoes that he had to promote, of course. He snuck in a few wears of the Air Jordan 16 in the 2001 preseason before switching to the 17 and 18 the next 2 years. But occasionally, MJ would channel his inner sneakerhead and break out with the retro to get people hyped for his older stuff. There was the Air Jordan 7 French Blue, the Jordan 9 Cool Gray, the Jordan 3 True Blue with copper accents instead of red, and of course the Air Jordan 11 Cool Gray. Call it a rose-colored nostalgia, but I never looked at Michael Jordan's Wizard run as a miserable failure or a shining success. It was merely the epilogue of his story. He wasn't as good as he once was, but for a few nights during those 2 years, like when he dropped 51 on the team he would eventually own, he was good enough. It's why I hope that as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of MJ's Wizards era, we get an announcement that a Last Dance sequel is coming that covers those 2 years, and that more sneakerheads appreciate the 16s, 17s, 18s, and the cool gray 9s. Oh, and an explanation for why Kwame Brown ended up becoming, well, Kwame Brown. As for the cool gray 11s, everything that needs to be said about them has already been said. They don't need any more love. It's already going to be hard enough to get an extra pair this week. And look, if you miss out on a pair, they'll always be available in Fortnite. What? The metaverse is just as good as the real thing, right? Like, I can get the cool grays in the Xbox version of Fortnite, and then I can see them in the PC version of Grand Theft Auto Online and in the next Spider-Man game on the PS5. This stuff just transfers seamlessly, no? Yes? Who knows? All of these walled gardens are suddenly going to come together and share, right? You know, like as a team, right? I don't know. It's time for this week's Hard Pass, where we took a look at something in the culture that just needs to go. Like the people who stole Richard Hamilton's Jordan PEs. Yeah. He only played with Michael Jordan for a year, but apparently that was good enough to get him a forever deal with Jordan Brand. And Rip had a treasure trove of exclusives and with one of the best possible color palettes since he played a majority of his career with the Pistons. Anyways, he revealed that a bunch of his PEs were stolen during a move and that he's even been searching on eBay to see if they might pop up. So if anybody knows who jacked Rip's PEs, let the man know. Those are special and probably one of a kind. Y'all so reckless out in these streets. Anyways, this week's Hard Pass actually goes to Sony. No, it's not because I can't get a PS5, although that does suck, and co-writer, both the imaginary one and the real one, like to make fun of this fact as they enjoy their consoles. It's because one of their executives in the movie division spoiled Spider-Man No Way Home for me. And no, it has nothing to do with all of the villains and heroes that may or may not be popping, although that is becoming a concern as we get closer to the 17th. During an interview with Fandango, producer Amy Pascal confirmed that not only Tom Holland would return to the role of Peter Parker, but that he was going to be in the MCU moving forward. There have been reports since that interview broke that seem to contradict that it's a slam dunk Holland is coming back, but if she's talking like he's coming back, that means we can safely assume Pete is going to go through No Way Home just fine. Now, whether that means the character is going to be in like the next big Avengers-style crossover movie is unclear. But the takeaway is that Holland is probably going to get the biggest Tony Stark-esque bag to play Spidey for a while. And that's great. It's Just that I was kind of hoping this was it for Holland and Parker, and at least for a few years or forever. Prior to this interview with Pascal, I watched the No Way Home trailers no less than several dozen times each. I listened to podcasts talking about the trailer, checked out message boards, and scoured Twitter for wild theories and speculation. It was not healthy in the least bit, but it's not like I was obsessing over a C-list anti-hero like Black Adam or something like that. It was Spider-Man. He's a pretty big deal for Marvel in general and for the MCU, and I thought that No Way Home was their way of moving on from Peter Parker and into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales. Like, who knows? Maybe Holland is tired of dealing with the character and wants to do more with his acting career. There's nothing wrong with that, and the last thing you want is for an actor to grow tired of the role and the character to go stale. So why not write Parker out of the MCU for the next phase, or two, setting the stage for Miles Morales to debut either the Air Jordan 1 wearing kid in the Spider-Verse animated movie or an MCU proper one that has Childish Gambino for an uncle. But nope, the business of making money and appeasing fanboys had to get in the way, so Pascal had to kill all speculation that this was it for Holland. Look, chances are I'm probably really wrong about all of this, and everything I said actually does come to pass, or Marvel has something so wild and crazy up their sleeve that I haven't even imagined what it could be yet. I just hope it's something cool and, well, amazing. And nothing like the last time we got a third Spider-Man movie. Don't let anybody tell you it's actually good all these years later like it's MJ on the Wizards. Spider-Man 3 was bad then and was even worse now after a rewatch. So, this week's Hard Pass actually goes to Spider-Man 3. Ugh. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I am Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week, but not before I give thanks to this drummer who saved us with some, well, extra seasoning. Shout out to Michael McDonald and Warren G, man. I'll see you next week. Peace.